Well, I have a lot going on in my life, as I'm sure everybody does. But I heard you say on one of the CDs that if you have 10 things in your life that are going on that are all pretty big.
We said that on 784 of the CDs.
Well, the one I heard, what can I tell you? And if only one of them is going well out of the 10, and then you concentrate on the one that's going well, the one where you feel aligned, that the others will all sort itself out.
Let's put this in the context of the grid. Most of the time when there are things that are bothering you, so let's say you have those 10 things and one of them is going well and 9 of them are not, and as you focus on any of those 9, you use those as your excuse to create a grid that doesn't line up with this one, that doesn't allow the flow from the vortex in, that doesn't allow the grid to fill in with what you're wanting. But if you focus upon the one thing that feels good, even if you have to go general to do it, as you focus upon that one, now you create what kind of a grid? And when you create that kind of a grid, then you get movement on the other 9. That was big.
So,
in other words, on those CDs that we talked about that before, never this clear, because we didn't apply the grid to the explanation.
Right.
Makes it easier, doesn't it?
It does. It does. So, I must still have some resistance, and I wonder.
Well, of course you do.
I keep on
so
wondering.
What? So what?
Well,
so what? Some resistance about, we cut you off, some resistance about something that is important to you?
Yes, and
So is it helpful to think about the thing that you want in specifics, if you're already aware that it's grid blocking?
No.
So anything else you could think about?
Yeah, the one thing that's really going well.
Yeah.
Right? So what happens when the fear comes?
The fear won't come when you're thinking upon the one thing that is going well. This is the whole process of this. You started with such a wonderful conversation because you pointed out a real life experience for you, and words don't teach. It's only life experience that teaches anyway. So you just taught yourself and all of us something valuable when you said, I ask a question, and you didn't say this, to which I didn't think I had the answer. But in anticipating coming to a gathering, I began to cry, which was evidence of the release of resistance. So this is the same sort of thing that you're talking about. You're just looking for ways to release the resistance. And don't try too hard.
Okay.
You see, we're going to give you something here, all of you, but this is really specific to what you're asking about, and you're really going to like it. Create in advance by prepaving more than trying to fix things that are broken. Because when you're trying to fix one of those 9 things that isn't going very well, you're off in the weeds.
Yeah.
When you're trying to fix one of those, you're usually trying to fill in your own grid from a vibrational stance that won't allow it to fill in the way you want it to. So you're just adding more power to the grid that you don't want.
Right.
Where if you will do what we have called prepaving, which is just imagine into the future. Imagine it being more the way you want it to be. But be really, really, really general.
Okay.
You see, you've just lost a little bit of confidence because you've been observing the what isness and it's got your attention. And now you've got a sort of cycle going because you've been observing it and offering a vibration about it, so you're getting more of it. And that's why you want to pronounce that most things aren't going well and very few of them are going well. But we want you to know that in all of this, that there's so much in your vortex that will fill in as you find some way somehow to just go general on everything that doesn't feel really good and be as specific as you can be on the things that do feel good. And then just prepave it. Do you know what we mean by that?
I do.
Start generally by saying things like, well, it will get better.
Right.
And if that puts a knot in your stomach because you don't believe it, then say, well, I know it's gotten better for some. And if that puts a knot in your stomach because you know it got better for them because you think they were doing something in a better way than you were, then say, I'm going to figure this out. Or I've been here before on some things and I did get a smoother ride eventually. Just keep talking until you give yourself that release. And as you find that release, then you know you've released resistance. But when we say we would prepave it, now that's the work that we're encouraging you to do when you're aware that you've got some resistance that you want to let go of. If we were standing in your physical shoes, we'd put ourselves in bed at night and we would say, I'm not going to think about this. I don't have to think about this. I'm just going to get a good night's sleep. And then do your best to sleep. And when you awaken in the morning, sit for 15 minutes with the intention of just quieting your mind and say to yourself, this is my process where I don't think of anything. And if I think of anything, I'll just breathe it away, but I'm not wanting to think of anything. This is my process where I'm just not going to think of anything. I'm just going to focus on my breathing for 15 minutes. No big deal. I'm just going to relax. This is the beginning of my grid work. I'm just going to relax. I don't have to make anything happen. Everything's in the vortex. It's flowing to me in perfect order. I'm just working on my grid. This is the best I can do right here, right now. It's the best thing that I can do. And in doing this, I'm prepaving for future experience. Now, what's going to happen as soon as the first day that you do that, go to bed that night and wake up the next morning and sit to meditate and get into that quiet general place, the first day that you do that, your grid will fill in with something that you will associate with that small work that you've done, and your confidence will come right back. And as the grid fills in, what's going to happen is it's going to be perfect in this sense. It's not going to be more specific than you're allowing, but it might not be as specific as you think you want it to be. Did you hear that? It will never be more specific than you're allowing, because the law of attraction won't allow that. So it won't be more specific than you're allowing, and it might not be as specific as you want it to be. But that's where you start doing your work. You don't go there. You don't try to fill it in. You don't try to hammer it into place. You don't try to wrestle it to the ground. You just say, hey, I did my work. This is all I need to do on this right now. Nothing more for me to do. Nothing more for me to do. I left it in the perfect place. And as the grid fills in with more specifics, then you can revel in that, you see. And before you know it, all 9 of those subjects, or however many of them they are, you'll have that little experience with them, and you'll just incrementally move every one of them to new and improved place, to new and improved place, until the manifestations will be so obvious that you will know for sure you've got the hang of this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.